Okay, we're talking about relationships, and we're basing it on the fact that 1 John says this is the message from the beginning, that you love one another. And that John chapter 13 says this is the new commandment that sums up the commandments, that you love one another. We're suggesting that every problem in the world is a problem of relationship, and if you don't relate well, you're part of that problem, which is our way of saying that this needs to become priority for us. Our faith can be assisted by understanding that there's only one issue. Relationship is based on value. The reason we relate to God is not because He commands it, not because He's bigger than you and He can send you to hell. You relate to God because He's worth it. And the second commandment, Jesus said, is like unto the first. In other words, it's connected to the first. You are to relate to, or what? Love your neighbor as who? Don't forget yourself, since you're a neighbor too. Jesus said, you cannot say I love God unless you love your brother. He connected the two. Because God is the one who is the source of all truth, the source of all love, the source of all righteousness. And so love is defined not as I want to define it, what feels good to me, what pleases me. Love is defined as what pleases God. And you don't love even yourself or love another person unless you include the source of love. God is love. That you can do this, and it's possible because Jesus Christ died to break down sin so you can relate to God. Jesus Christ died to break down enmity so that you can relate to others and yourself by grace, extending to somebody what they don't deserve. So why do we talk about relationship between the sexes? Why should you listen to me or somebody else talk about this? There are two reasons. Write them down. Not because I'm an expert, not because I'm going to put my opinions on you, but because, number one, it is the biggest emotional impact in people's lives. If that's true, then you don't love society, and you're not ready to minister to society until you know some things about the relationship between the sexes. And you don't have answers for this, then you're not ready to live in this society, and you're not ready to minister to this society. Number two reason we talk about this is not only is it the biggest emotional impact, but we have a problem. Hey, listen, society, we have a problem. We do not know how to do this. And part of the problem with the problem is that we won't admit we have a problem. The divorce rate proves we don't know how to do this. The adultery rate proves we have a problem. The lust rate proves we have a problem. The broken heart rate proves we have a problem. So I think if you look at this list, you'll see we have a problem. So that's why we need to discuss this. At the very beginning, God thought up and created two sexes. God thought up and created two sexes. My job is to make you meditate on what is old. No, let's go back before what you have come to be in despair about that's so normal. Let's go back before all of this, quote, normal stuff that's only been going on a few hundred years. Let's go back to where we have nothing in the universe but God. God made this stuff. He made hormone. God thought up and created two sexes. We cannot cure the problems we have in our society, and they are many. Whether it's heterosexual lust or homosexual lust or pedophilia or pornography or anything we have out there, we cannot cure it until we first go back into the mind of God and find out what He thought up and what He wanted. God made your bodies. God thought up sexuality. It's not evil. Your body is not an evil object. Don't talk about yourself that way, and don't talk about the other sex that way. It was God's idea. Now, why is it important to know this? Because the devil comes to us and he says, I'm the sex expert. Angels are not sexual beings. And Satan is an angel. And he claims to be the sex expert. Our whole society is built on this. So if I want to get the most fulfillment out of my relationship with the opposite sex, which includes a whole lot more than sex, but does include that, I want to get as close to the one who thought up the whole process, and his name is God. Now, what do I mean by sexiest? I mean the most fulfilled in themselves and the most fulfilling to someone else. So the people who are the most whole in Jesus Christ are the most fulfilled within themselves and the most fulfilling to someone else. And therefore, there must be a path to walk in that is pure and pleasing to God, and yet is absolutely so fulfilling it'll blow your fuses. That's our God. And listen, Christians, the reason we need to talk about it in these kinds of settings, where is it more appropriate to talk about this than in the presence of the one who thought it up? Can you just raise your hand and tell me any other place it's more appropriate to talk about body parts and sexuality than in the room where we have worshiped the God who thought the whole thing up out of his own mind and created it with his own hands? Because it came out of the mind of God. Who should be the sex experts on earth? Christians still go to the world to find out how to relate to the opposite sex. Our God is the one who thought the whole thing up. We should be the most whole. We should be the most confident. We should be the ones to whom the world all comes. And my goal in teaching on this subject is that you and I would be the ones that the world would come to and say, hey, tell us about this. Your God thought it up. How does it work? How can I be fulfilled? How can I get the most out of my relationship with the opposite sex? How can I get the most out of and utilize my sexuality the way it ought to be utilized? That's my goal. How many of you got faith for the fact that the world will someday come to the church and they will understand it?